All right, everyone out there in Banjo Land, Mike Heading here. A couple weeks back, I did a 10 licks playing out of the D position movable chord shape, and I had a request if I could do 10 more licks now using a minor chord shape. So we're going to use this F position minor chord that I'll break down in a second, and I'll show you how to do 10 closed position licks. So closed position means we're not going to use any open strings, and what that's going to allow us to do is move this shape, the minor chord shape, anywhere we want on the neck, and we'll be able to play these same licks. So it's super helpful, super handy to learn closed position licks. You know, open string licks can be really helpful down the neck, but as you play up the neck and you want to move a lick to a different key, playing closed position chords and licks are really important. So let's break down this lesson right now. Okay, so before we get into lick one, let's just make sure we've got our shape down that we're going to use. I did all these out of the A minor shape just for practice, and again, I'll show you how to move it around in a second. But we're going to use our classic A minor F position chord. So I've got my third finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string. I've got my first finger barring the 5th fret of the middle 2 strings, and I've got my pinky up on the 7th fret of the 1st string. So you remember your major F position chord is with your 2nd finger on the 6th fret, right? So that's happy major. If you take your 2nd finger off and bar your 1st finger, you get spooky sad minor, right? So you got major, minor. So anywhere you can do that move, you can obviously do that little minor shape, okay? So that's the shape we're going to work out for this licks and this lesson. And let me just show you the notes we're going to use. So we're going to use a lot of the 5th frets with our 1st finger. So we can use the 4th string 5th fret. We've got the 7th fret. We've got 5, 7 on the next string, on the 3rd string. So we got one more note here with our pinky, the 8th fret, which will be like a bluesy note. And then we've got 5th fret. And then you can use the 7th if you want on the 2nd string. We won't use that one quite as much, but again, we're just looking at our possible notes here. And then we've got 5th fret and 7th fret. So we have take out that 7th fret on the 2nd string, it's like the minor, the blues scale, the A minor. It's like an A minor pentatonic or A minor blues scale. So what I would do first is just get used to playing those different notes. You can also grab the 8th fret here instead of the 5th fret, same note, right? So I'm just running up and down the notes. Root note, right? If I pronounce that correctly, is the 7th fret on the 4th string or the 5th string, right? The 4th string or 1st string, excuse me. The 7th fret on the 4th string or 1st string, right? So as long as I end on that 7th fret, it will kind of complete the lick. So I'm not worrying about what I'm doing with my right hand. Notes in this position. Okay, so that's the shape we're going to work out of. Okay, let's break down lick number 1. Okay, let me play lick 1 and I'll break it down. So all the licks are going to be one measure long, and then I added one measure of just thumb and then thumb, index, middle vamping, right? So I'm doing thumb and then pinching all 3 fingers, and then thumb on the 4th string and then pinching all 3 strings. Again, that's just going to help you separate the licks. We have the lick and then a vamp, right? And then a lick. So just, again, to help you hear how the lick repeats, help you practice transitioning from backup to a lick. A lot of these licks are going to be little vamping or fill licks, so that's where I would use these as kind of in a backup context, right? Okay, so our first lick, we're going to slide up our 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string from 7 to 9. So basically, I'm sliding from this note here to this note here on the 2nd string, but obviously you can't slide across to a different string, right? So we have to grab this note up here at the 9th fret now. And then I'm hitting the 8th fret here, which is this note on the 1st string. So we did this, but we're just playing it a different way, right? So I'm sliding up there and then playing that 8th fret. So it's like a grace note slide. So slide quick. So it's 1 and then I let the pressure off that note. And then I do an 8, 7 pull off on the 3rd string. And then I slide down to the 5th fret. And then on the 4th string, 7, 5, 7. So you have, so it's 1 and 3 and 4 and. So 1 and 3 and 4 and then 1, right? So let's move it up a whole step. So up to B minor, right? You know, go up to the 14th fret, right? That'd be E minor, right? That's another common one you might use. Really important to use the same fingers. I'm trying to visualize this shape, right? They call this playing out of a chord shape. Very common in country style guitar, very common in bluegrass banjo or bluegrass in general. We're playing out of a chord shape. So visualize this chord shape that we're using. And I'm using the same fingers to help connect in my mind that it's the same lick. You know, D minor here, you got A minor, B minor, you know, C minor. You can do it wherever you want, right? So that'd be a good like little ending lick. So maybe you do like an A minor, E, A minor. You know, like maybe at the end of Wayfaring Stranger or something like that. Again, a very common little ending in A minor would be A minor, E major, or E7, back to A minor, right? And then you'd have like a little fill. It could also just be used on an extended section of A minor. And then what I would do too is just get these down as positions and then try changing the rhythm. So maybe I go, or maybe I go, you know, use these as an idea, a jumping off point for your own creativity, because it's important to memorize the licks, or, you know, I'd recommend memorizing the licks I came up with, but more importantly would be creating your own licks off of the ideas, right? So you could do more single string, maybe use this little idea as a jumping off point for your own licks. Maybe I go, you know, maybe I just take a little idea from one lick and I expand upon it. You know, again, it's not all going to sound perfect at first, not expecting you to just create these amazing licks, right? But you have to try some stuff. You have to you got to mumble some words before you come out with complete, full, you know, sentences that make sense, right? So don't let your own creativity hinder you in coming up with a lick, because if you kind of set this bar where any lick I play has to be perfect, you're going to be waiting a while for these perfect, quote-unquote, perfect licks to come into your mind, right? You have to try a lot of stuff, and I keep reminding people, students in my lessons, try a lot of stuff. Throw a lot of stuff at the wall. You know, these 10 licks I came up with, I played a lot of licks before I wrote down these 10, right? So that's part of the process, and that's, you know, I'm not expecting you to come up with something amazing right away, but you have to start somewhere to start feeling and hearing how you can come up with your own licks in this context, all right? So that's lick number 1. Let's jump into lick number 2. Okay, so lick number 2 is... So I've done this one before, I think, in a different lesson. This is one of my favorite backup licks. So we might want to do the vamping first, actually, in this one, and I'll show you in a second. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, because beat 1 of our lick is actually a rest. So you either have to do the vamping first or count 1, and then we're going to do a 7-5 pull off on the first string. Have your first finger barred on this 5th fret here and here, and then I'm going to do a pull off with my pinky. So I'm doing middle index with my right hand. I'm pulling that string off, and then play those notes again, middle index, and then 7, 5, 7. So you have... That one sounds good with a little bit of swing. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. make it a full measure, you could, again, add one more quarter note at the beginning. So maybe you play the 7th fret on the low string. It can also sound good with the rest, though. Same thing, move it up. It'd be B minor, D minor, a common one. The other thing I'll do with this minor shape is sometimes if it feels like too big of or tight quarters, I might take off my 3rd finger and then only use it when I need it. You know, that's another thing you can do. Right, so that's lick number 2, not too hard. So it's 2 E and, 3 and, 4 and is how you count it. Okay, it's not too hard. Lick 3, let me play it. Same idea, we're going to slide up to that first position we used, except we're just going to add 2 more notes. So we're going to slide up and then put your 1st finger on the 7th fret. Again, this is kind of like an A minor shape here. And then we have our pinky up on the 10th fret of the 1st string, which completes the minor. Right, so I'm sliding into that while rolling, thumb, index, middle. And then my thumb of my right hand comes down, hits the 1st string. And then I take my pinky off and roll backwards. And then slide back down. So it sounds like this. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You know, you can do it down in G minor as well, right? Up here. So again, we're working that same shape, similar idea to this one. You know, you could try and combine those. You know, the other thing you can do too is I just did all these as 1 measure licks, but if you want a challenge, you want to, you know, create your own, try doing 2 measure licks, right? So I could go something like that, right? Or combine lick 1 and 2, or excuse me, lick 1 and 3, excuse me. So be. So see how I made that a 2 measure lick? So a lot of these you could combine together to make even longer licks if you wanted to, right? Okay, that's lick number 3. Again, think of these as shapes. Think of where we're using these shapes. And then try and come up with your own ideas. Because again, I keep reiterating this and I don't want to just keep repeating it, but I think it's super, super important. Memorize these licks, but these are just a jumping off point for your own creativity. I really want to stress that. You have to create your own licks. You're not going to be able to memorize 50 licks, 100 licks. You know, maybe you can, but I can't. I know I can't. So for me, I'm thinking of these positions and these little positions I can work out of, and then I trust myself to hopefully come up with something. And it's not always going to be perfect, but that's what you're practicing. All right, let's jump into lick number 4. Okay, this is more of a vamping lick. Let me play it and then I'll break it down. This is going to be kind of like almost like a country style guitar vamp lick. We're going to play the 7th fret on the 4th string, and then we're going to pinch strings 3 and 2 with our index and middle finger on that A minor. So we have 1 and then we're going to play like an offbeat rhythm, and then you bar the 7th fret on the middle 2 strings, and I'm picking those with my index and middle right hand. So you have 1 and then slide your 3rd finger up to the 9th fret and put your 2nd finger on the 8th fret, and then pinch those 2 strings, and then back down to 7, and then 5 and 5. So you're kind of doing these little bar shapes. And it's not an exact science, you kind of just mash them down. Or try to, try them a different direction. You could also think of this as a shape, this is a shape, this is a shape, you know, and just combine them. Just see what you come up with. Or slide that up to B minor, you know. So that's lick number 4, just a little vamping. Alright, that's lick number 4. Alright, lick number 5, let me play it and then I'll break it down. So this one's a little tricky to kind of play or tab out to get the exact sound just right. So basically what we're doing is we're working out of this shape. I've got my 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and then I've got my 1st finger barred on the 5th frets of the 2nd and 1st string. And I'm going to bend the 7th fret of the 3rd string up, and I'm not getting quite up to the 9th fret on the 3rd string, you know, which would be this note, right? So I'm bending this note kind of in between the 8th and 9th fret while rolling through. So I'm going. And then the last time I roll and bend it, actually, so I roll 3 times. And then the last time I bend it back down. And then 5th fret. It's probably easier to play it fast than slow, actually. So you have. And don't worry exactly what note you're bending it to at first. Again, just try and get a little of that attitude. That's just a little position lick. That's almost like a Jimmy Martin style banjo lick. Really bend that string up. Alright, that's lick number 5.